Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to the Boston Marathon Expo and the main stage here, where we are joined by some members of the B.A.A. Running Club, super duper race veterans of the Boston Marathon. Let's give a big wave and welcome. We'll start with Chris Marshall. Christopher Marshall is preparing for his 8th Boston Marathon. This will be, of course, his first virtual. He works for the Muscular Dystrophy Association, which has team of 6 or 7 runners in this month's race. Chris, what is in the background there?
That's my almost 4-year-old, and this will be his I guess 4th Boston Marathon, first virtual. First one he's not witnessing from. We live at mile 24, so I'm actually gonna be doing it up here in New Hampshire, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But he'll witness a new Boston Marathon course.
Good. I think we all will. And we're also joined by Amanda Waters. Hello, Amanda.
Hello, how are you?
Amanda, I'm okay. My hands are less full than yours, and I hate to be the one to tell you, but no one is really looking at you right now. Everyone's looking at what's in your arms of joy. Who's this?
This is, she's being super joyful right now. This is Adina. She's 7 months old.
Which means she was born in like January, right? As you were thinking about maybe running this April for what would have been the 15th consecutive time.
16th. Yeah. So yeah, I had signed up, and I think I naively thought that I could easily get back and run the marathon by April.
And Adina clearly is saying, oh, why don't we just do it in September instead, or something like that, I'm sure. And we're joined by Michael McGrane, who is the coach of the B.A.A. Running Club, and is Amanda's wonderful husband and Adina's wonderful dad, and joins us from a different room in their Ashland home. Mike, how far are you guys from the course?
We are half a mile from the course in Ashland. So we visit it often, and we frequent the starting line as much as we can as well.
Mike has been the coach of the B.A.A. team for 7 years. He is preparing, or was preparing, for his 19th consecutive Boston Marathon, and has run more marathons than he can count. Mike, your best guess is what, 45, 46, something like that?
Around 45. I try to keep a tally once a year just to see where I'm at. Actually, it'd be that my 20th Boston would have been in April. So I've run 19. So still waiting for that number 20.
For the big 2-0. And Amanda will join us for as long as she can until Adina, her boss, tells us otherwise, as all 7-month-old bosses do. Let's go around the room in this fun little afternoon get-together of running people. And we'll talk about a few things as we look ahead to this week's race. So, mistakes, guidance, tips, tricks to run your best possible 26.2. As you all know, you're doing it in a wide array of places this year, from the top of the world to the bottom of the world, in all hemispheres, time zones, and countries. And there are some universal guiding principles that this crew here can share with you. First thing, biggest race mistake you've made and the lesson you've learned from it. Amanda, why don't we start with you? What is the biggest race mistake you've made over the years?
I think I have 2. I think the first one is going out too fast. And that usually catches up with you about 18 miles in, where you're suddenly like, oh, I really regret that I went out that fast. And you sometimes suddenly are like, oh, I think I'm gonna, you hit the wall. Basically, and you either have to get through it or you crawl through it. And then I think the other thing is, then this one was kind of a race I went to. The water was stolen early on, and there was no water on the course for probably 7 miles or so, and that really put us into a deficit. So I would say hydration is one of, I'm not sure if it was totally my mistake, except for the fact that I didn't have a backup for that particular race. So I would definitely say hydration is a really key and important thing, because that was probably one of the marathons I struggled the most at.
That's a good, what's interesting is that we're all our own race directors here this week as we plan our own hydration. And I mean, we're not going to have a course lined with volunteers and cups and medical stations and all that. So I think it is a good thing for people to be prepared for is if you put your water bottle in a place and it is not there when you are looking for it, or maybe you're looking in the wrong place, Lord knows that the mind can slip through 26.2 miles. Christopher Marshall, what is one of the biggest race mistakes you've made over the years, and what have you learned from it?
I think we all have gone out a little too fast, but luckily and unluckily, we will not have the other 30,000 people or so around us pushing us. But last year when I ran New York, I didn't eat enough in the morning. I think just not really so excited about all the pomp and circumstance, not used to being on the home course, and just didn't think about eating enough. So I got a little too hungry. So around that whole nutrition thing, I think we get so wired up in everything else and maybe sometimes forget about eating or drinking, whatever we need to.
How did you recover?
Well, I was taking oranges left and right. I was doing anything I could. I was taking I like maple syrup packets. So I use those on the course, but I mean, I was taking any fuel I could, which was not optimal to survive. I was running with someone else, so I wasn't, straight up racing it, which was good, but it was a long, hungry day for me.
I believe it. Coach McGrane, the only way one runs as many marathons as you have is if they have recovered and learned from mistakes that undoubtedly show up. What's some mistakes that you've made and how have you rebounded and learned?
Somehow you keep making mistakes every year. But I think I have learned, and I think I've become a better marathoner by learning from small mistakes. I'd say that, I have two I could talk about. And the first one is my first marathon is just wearing shoes that I haven't tested and the wrong size. And, about mile 18, I got a huge blister on my foot. I basically had to hobble in because of a huge blister. And so, trying something new before running 26-mile race is never advised. And so that was probably my first big mistake, and learned from that one. But then I think more recently is become more of a seasoned marathoner. I think the mistake is trying to run what you want for a time rather than what you've trained yourself to run. And that's probably the biggest mistake. A lot of marathoners that are more experienced is that you can only race a marathon based on what you've trained for. And a lot of times we have our A goal, but the training might not always equate to getting to that goal. But we want that goal so bad that we try to stick to that pace or that plan. And when it doesn't go well, then we run 5 or 10 minutes slower than we want. And then you become a little dissatisfied with your overall marathon performance. So, modifying your goal based on your training is probably one of the biggest areas that I think that can make a better performance.
When you talk about modifying a goal, I would imagine that also includes modifying your plan as you're going into the race, or perhaps that's something different altogether. I mean, we all have a goal based on where we think our fitness is at going into the race. And then I think that, again, as you say, it's important to modify, adjust those goals if you think conditions may be different, but you should also be able to adjust your plans, right?
Yeah, and the good reason to change those plans is based on weather conditions, especially at Boston, where the weather seems to change by the day. And we've trained for and have a goal in mind to run a certain time. Say you want to run 3 hours, but it turns out to be 75 degrees and, you get dehydrated and you fall off pace. And so setting a new goal, a plan B, is always important to have a good performance. And I think that's where we try to stick to our goal and run on pace as long as we can. And it usually doesn't pan out the way we want it to.
Right. one of the things that we're all doing, we'll stick with you for this one, Mike, is designing our own courses for this Boston Marathon, our virtual Boston Marathon. When you're speaking with athletes and those who you coach, what sort of tips are you giving for those who have designed their own course, or is there are there some guiding principles that you'd want to share about doing that?
Make it as easy as possible. So, you know, you can take out the hills if you don't want to run all the hills in Boston. But if you live in a hilly area, then, you know, if you decide to run in where you live, then you're kind of maybe bound to certain terrain. But I think doing a loop course, you know, if you're doing it from a location that's, you know, near your house or a nearby location that you're familiar with, that you've trained on. For the B.A.A Running Club, we've been running in small groups during the summer, you know, staying socially safe distance apart and following precautions. But we've been running a flat course with a loop course where you can come through and get Gatorade and water and Cliff products for what we train with to be, you know, best prepared for the heat, humidity during the summer training. And so I think, you know, having a loop course, even if it's a little boring, is a good way to get through it. But everybody's got different personality and different goals. So, you know, if you have course, you know, support out there with family, friends, and you want to run, you know, point to point or in a different area, then, you know, hey, as long as you have support and you enjoy the run, go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Chris, as you think about your route that you'll do in New Hampshire, have you put thought into your start line, your finish line? Are you measuring a course in advance, or are you sort of going off of roads that you know and a wearable fitness tracker or something like that?
Yeah, I'll be using my Garmin. I'll be doing a course that I do a lot, almost every weekend. I mean, I'm going for having a good day. I had a little hamstring issue a couple weeks ago, so just going out to have some fun. So I luckily during marathon season, we're up here. I have a great course that mimics Boston, so I'll have some nice hills to go up and down throughout it. I'm gonna do 2 12-mile loops with a couple 1-mile loops in between there. There's not much. I'll be doing some on some like main roads between the lakes up here in New Hampshire. I'm up in Belmont, New Hampshire, so I'll go from our lake on Silver Lake over to Lake Winnisquam, and I'll get a little view of Winnipesaukee and come on back down to our lake. So a little triple lakes region action and have fun there.
But there is some elevation change. It sounds like you've got worked in.
Oh yeah, totally. There'll be some hills as I go up and down throughout the lakes region. So, which is nice. You know, I've done some loop courses that are flat, and they can get a little boring.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had my best marathon on a loop course. It was like a pancake. It was awesome. But you know, it can get a little boring. You know, my family up here was, you know, pushing me to do some 1-mile loops around our neighborhood, but I don't think I would last very long on that. So you'll get the hard uphill climbs, right? But you'll also get the downhills to keep you going. I think it'll be fun.
Good. Yeah, but you have mapped out, it sounds like, some 1-mile loops. Will those be the ones where your folks can support you?
Yeah, totally. So right at our house, there's like a 1-mile loop where I'll get started before I have to go uphill. So that'll be nice. So the water will be here, so I'll hit it around mile 12, you know, mile 14, and on back. So we'll see if anyone wants to wake up and come have some bottles out for me and whatnot.
What are you going to do on the big 12-mile loops? Are you putting them out on the course out there?
Oh, well, that's the part I haven't figured out yet. You know, I may just have to carry a bottle with me or survive 12 miles. You know, it may not be, I don't think there's going to be some volunteers every mile for me out there on the lake. So we'll see.
All right, good.
I've stowed some bottles along the way, and randomly up here, I found some B.A.A teammates on some runs randomly here and there. So we'll see. We'll see what the day comes with.
And would you plan to run with them, or do you think you might? You haven't decided yet.
I'm gonna run solo. I'm gonna have fun, just sort of do it. Maybe have some music playing. Maybe have you know, just the beauty of the lake. Have some fun with it.
Good. And Amanda, for you, living so close to the course, I mean, the temptation is there to clearly just knock it out. But I know that that's not, there won't be the volunteers or public safety personnel out there to support you. So like, what are you thinking?
I was not planning to run the actual course. I'm maybe part of it, but not the whole thing. I'm not in shape to run the Boston Marathon course. I think, this year, I always knew that 2020 was going to be different. I just didn't know that it was going to be different for everybody. So I have different goals this year in terms of just kind of enjoying it and not worrying about my time and that kind of thing. As far as the course that I hope to run, I think it will be flatter. I haven't actually mapped out exactly what I'm planning to run, but part of my idea is to be able to have Adina with me in the jogging stroller for as much as she'll tolerate. And there are too many hills in Ashland to make it all right around here. So
Yeah, I think that's one of the beauties is that we can, Amanda and Michael can have Adina there with them. I can have Teddy not popping over my head and hanging out, a couple miles with me, maybe jog, a little bit and have Grace join in. So I'm sure we're not unique to that scenario, that people around the world, this is your chance to have your kids hop on the Boston Marathon course where you ordinarily have to pick up and can't do that.
Exactly. I really want to, it's not the experience that any of us originally signed up for, but it's unique and you might as well make the most of it.
Yeah, never will you be able to, or have you ever been able to run the Boston Marathon with a stroller and your little one, and here you can do it, and help that little bundle of joy can help you earn your Boston Marathon finisher's medal, which is cool. There he is, Chris. I see him over your shoulder.
Well, that'll be his medal. He takes them all. They're all his. So.
What do you do with all your medals, Chris? Seriously, are they children's toys or are they in a place of, where are your medals?
That's a great question. Pre-children, they were in a box somewhere, but now you walk in the house, and I think I walked in from New York last year, after getting off the train, and it was Teddy's medal. So I think I found it somewhere the other day in a toy box. So
Michael, all right, this is a new question we didn't plan for. Michael, what do you do with all your medals?
I think they're also in a box.
It's a lot. You've got like assuming you get one at every race, that's like 45 medals. That's a heavy box.
Right. Well, when I ran my 10th Boston Marathon, I wore all 10 of them out to the bars showcase. And then I was planning to put the next 10 on, but I was missing a couple. And then it never happened in April. So we'll see this coming year.
Okay. Well, there'll be a time for you to wear 21 medals, I'm sure. Amanda, where are all your medals? They must be in this running-related room you're in right now.
They are in my office, and I actually have one of those like runner display things, and they're on that.
Good. The final 24 hours before a race are nerve-wracking for any person, any individual gearing up for a marathon, whether it's your first or your 100th. And that's especially true if you're like in a new city or in a new location, or if it's your first time to run this race. There's so many things to worry about: how to get there, what's it like, how long it's going to take to load into the start area, where are the porta-johns. But for this marathon, you really can have the comforts of home in your own course, but there is still critical importance that needs to go into the last 24 hours of your race prep. Amanda, from sticking with you, from a wellness standpoint, whether it's diet, hydration, rest, from a physio standpoint, what do your last 24 hours look like before you take off?
I try to rest as much as possible. Usually for the Boston Marathon, that's actually a little bit difficult for us because we're running around the Expo and all that stuff. But I would recommend, putting your feet up, watching a movie, If you have a cat, pet the cat, I don't know. Just making sure you're staying hydrated the last 24 hours before you run, and eating properly. Kind of similar to what Michael was saying earlier, don't try anything new. Don't suddenly like decide that you're going to try a brand new type of food that you don't know how it goes through you. Stick with what you've been eating before your long runs, and then in the morning, again, continuing to eat and hydrating properly before the event. That's what I would do.
Great. And Mike, just throwing it over to you as you've geared up and prepared for your races. What goes into your last 24 hours?
I think it's going to be really different doing it as a virtual marathon where you may be running by yourself or just one or two other, friends. So it's really, there's less distractions perhaps, but you also have to probably be a little more focused. And I would take it like I plan my long runs. When I'm training for Boston, I sort of treat my big long runs as if I'm preparing for a race, and getting to sleep and trying to make sure I'm rested, recovered before that long run. And I also have the mindset like that I'm going to do it. Like, when we have a 23 or 24 mile run as a training run in March, I take those runs I take them serious, and I plan for it, again, physically and mentally, get it ready. So I think staying focused, goal oriented, because it's still a long ways to run. And if you haven't planned everything out, then, things may not go well. So, it sounds like Chris, you're planning for a very fun solo long run, and that sounds awesome, and beautiful views. But planning those little things like gels and medical support of some Vaseline if you need it, if you have chafing, those little things can make all the difference in how enjoyable that run goes. So as well as bathroom break, because there's less bathrooms out there now for with the COVID-19. There's just you can't pop into a restaurant and use a restaurant or expect to use a restaurant or restroom. So it's a little different these days.
Yeah, that's a good point. Chris, for you, what's have you been putting into your last 24 hours before a big race?
Yeah, going back to your first question, I think that was one of my biggest mistakes. At the beginning, I do most of my long runs on Saturdays, and Friday is pizza night. So now as an adult, pizza and a good old Sam Adams is always my my fuel before a long run. But I was being silly and stuffing my face with pasta like any good runner, but I was never eating all that pasta on a normal pre-long run night. So one marathon, I just had pizza and beer the night before the race, and not excessively, but pizza and a beer, and those carbs have really worked for me. And that's what I had the night before, after drinking water all day and getting the salt intake, and getting some sweet potato chips. I love that for a little salt carb intake, and just making sure to get a little extra sugar in there too.
That's great. Yeah. So the pizza and the beer combo has worked for you.
Yeah, just sort of those carbs have worked for me, and I go with it. So
yeah, you got to stick to it. Amanda, for you, when you've had a good Boston, what have you really reflected on as, wow, that was a good thing that I did to help me have success?
I think usually when I've had good Bostons, it's been being very focused and determined, and sticking to a plan and not straying from it. So if I was planning to run a certain pace from the very beginning of the run, I was hitting that pace. I kept telling myself things like, there's so many other people. It's your one race. Like, don't pay attention to the people at the start of the run going too fast or something like that. And those have been my most successful Bostons, are the ones where I've been able to kind of focus and execute the plan that I set out. And Michael has been probably instrumental in helping me do that kind of thing. But I think, you know, this time it is really your own race this time, unless you happen to have a friend to run with or something like that. But you still can have like your family and friends involved to help you get through it.
Mhm. And Michael, when you've helped people make their race plan and prepare for their event, yes, you key in on certain pace per mile that you want to hit, and you might also key in on certain splits. Would you recommend that runners like check their splits like every mile, or is it more like every 5K, every 10K? Is there like a certain method to that madness?
Well, I think when we're in a race with like the Boston Marathon, where it's competitive, it's crowded, people are running fast from the gun. I think it's hard to run your race, as Amanda put out. Like, you really have to be disciplined, and it helps to have that Garmin, or to pay attention to the mile splits in those first few miles. And then I always suggest, like, once you're on pace for the first, 1 to 2, 3 miles, maybe up to 5 miles even, like, you then lock into a pace that feels easy, and that you feel like you could run it pretty much all day. If you're going too fast early, that you're going to kind of know it at pretty early in the race. And so I always say you got to go by feel, and these should replicate the training runs that you've done at that same pace, or close to it. Usually slightly slower, but when you're doing a virtual race, I think it's even more important to start a little slower and go by effort and feel. You can still go for a time, but I think many of us are looking to finish, and it's not going to be the same experience as trying to hit a goal time, as much as the having the experience of the event. And I think that's the running based on how you feel and based on your training is really important.
And Chris, I mean, we're not going to have the crowds to cheer us on in the second half of the race. How many maple syrup packets are you going to have to take to be jazzed up for those last 4 miles? I think the maple syrup's a great idea.
Yeah, good New Englander, right?
Yeah.
It's Vermont maple syrup, not New Hampshire. So hopefully they let me stay up here. But that's something, I talked about the loop course earlier, and that was my best marathon, and that was nowhere near Boston. But I started to visualize like different miles of the race. And for those of us who live here in Boston area and train on the course, I was starting to think like, oh, mile 18, I'm going to get up this hill, and mile 20, I'm going to be up towards BC. And as I hit Cleveland Circle, and at the time I lived a little closer towards Cleveland Circle, so I was visualizing seeing my family. And now I would start to think like, oh, mile 24, I'm going to be, closer to my family type thing. So starting to visualize those things in your head, in the world of 2020 where everything is virtual, and I was noticing some of that on the app where, the city markers and different points of demarcation, start to really visualize that thought, things that you would normally, for those of us that are returning racers, can you visualize something, or even can you start to think, we do this a lot in, charity running, start to, think of, someone every mile to sort of, keep you going and really make that mile meaningful. But that's what I always do when it's not Boston. I sort of map out like, okay, I'm going to be here, I'm going to be in Ashland, I'm going to be in Framingham, whatever.
Chris, for someone who's run marathons in different places, do you always look at the same? For a lot of us, there's a mile in the race that's like, this is the toughest mile we want to mentally prepare for, whether it's mile 20 that you think is halfway, whether it's running Boston and it's getting to BC at 21, or maybe it's 19 or 18 or 24. Do you have a number in your mind that's like the key number that you want to get to?
I think I may speak for these two as well, but Boston's our focus, right? So I think every race I'm thinking of is Boston, and as long as I can get through those hills, I'm happy because, you know, being the Northeastern grad I am, I can think about taunting all the BC kids on the way down, down into Cleveland Circle. So not saying I've ever done that before, but you know, it's a good thought for me. And that's a different, you know, visual markers I give myself. If I can get through those hills, then we're good. I mean, we got a lot of work to do, and, you know, coming into Washington Square is no easy thing, you know, a little sneaky hill coming on in there and then the Coolidge Corner, but you know, you're pretty much golden after that point.
People say, oh, once you get through the hills, it's all downhill from there. It's not. It's mostly downhill, but it is not. Amanda, what's the mile?
Every time.
What's that, Chris?
Washington Square, Coolidge Corner will get you every time.
Yeah, I know it. Amanda, what's the mile marker for you that's like, okay, we're halfway there or whatever?
I think it's more of a not so much a mile marker, but a location, top of Heartbreak Hill. As long as I get to the top of Heartbreak Hill, I know I'll be able to finish in whatever shape I might be running, but I've always been able to be like, oh, I'm definitely going to be able to finish this. And yeah, the extra hill over mile 25, so not fun. That over ramp or the bridge over the Mass Pike. I was so mad about that the first time I ran Boston.
Yeah. I ran my first Boston last year. You've run 15. Do any of these hills get easier?
I think that last one over mile 25, yes, because for me, the first time it was a surprise. And I was really mad that everybody said it was always downhill. But then I think mentally I was able to prepare for it. I would go out after I work in very close to the finish line, and I'd go and sorry. I would go and I'd practice and run it, so it became easier.
Thank you, Adina. We love you.
She doesn't like that hill either.
She doesn't like it either, but boy, she is cute. Mike, for you, having done this a lot, is there a number? Is there a mile that you key off of?
Really, it's Cleveland Circle, like getting through that sort of a steep downhill with the trolley tracks. Like my legs, like if I'm coming through there and my legs are wobbly, I'm in bad shape, and it's the first part of the long stretch of downhills. And so if I can get through Cleveland Circle and come down that Chestnut Hill Ave without any issues and the legs feel good, I know I'm still going to blow up a mile or two or three later at some point, because I'm still pushing the pace, and those downhills just really catch up to you. But if I can get through Cleveland Circle, then that gives me a big confidence booster that I can at least hold some sort of pace for 3 or 4 miles to the finish, even if I fall off pace.
Mike, you do push the pace, and Beacon Street is a long, lonely place sometimes if you're not feeling good in Cleveland Circle. How are you mentally able to hold it together for the longest 3.5 miles of your life?
I don't know. I mean, every year it's like, that's such a struggle. I know that Chris and Amanda like feel the same way in many ways. Like you can be feeling amazing and feel like you're running fast, and then like a half mile later you can be like, I've been dizzy and like having to pull over and like, or cramp up, and just like the hamstring cramps. And so at that point I've kind of like done the math in my head as far as what pace I'm running and what I need to do to finish. And so I start to set those mini goals of like, okay, if I can pull together, hold it together, I can still run this time, at the finish. And so I try to set those goals, and really it's like, don't stop, keep moving. And that's just my motto every year when I get through there.
One thing I've been afraid of in the past is like I may feel good at 22 or 23. And when I say feel good, it's relative. It's like the wheels are still moving, but I have this fear because it's happened to me before where like it just goes downhill fast. And so how do you know how to balance putting your foot on the accelerator, but like versus blowing up the engine, I
mean, most of it's dictated by what my legs will do. And when I start to push the pace, my body basically pushes back and says, no, you're not going to do that. Right, Chris?
No matter what muscles do you want to keep at that point, right?
It's usually my hamstrings. And for me personally, I struggle with some of the hills, and my hamstring will start getting zingers in so then I have to just kind of maintain pace and like even change a stride where I try to more of a shuffle stride just to like prevent any like muscle cramping. And sometimes it's more of a like it's depletion where I haven't had enough gels and then it's more of a lightheaded feeling where I feel like if I push myself too hard, I might pass out. I really might, I get dizzy. So it's really just a balance of just kind of like maintaining, listening to your body and just trying to hold it together for me. I don't know. I've had very few Bostons where I've, felt really great all the way to the finish. I can't think of any. It's just Boston. It's brutal.
Yeah. Chris, when you talk about these late miles and you talk about the team that you have from Muscular Dystrophy Association running and raising money, what we know is that for a lot of these folks running for nonprofits, there is often a greater purpose behind their miles. There is often a greater meaning to their race. Do memories of others and things like that help fuel you, or do they help? Have they been known to help fuel some of the folks on your team?
Yeah, and I think Amanda's run for raise some money as well, so she can probably agree with me here. But I mean, I had never raised money for a marathon prior to working at MDA in 2015, and I think marathons became a little easier after that. It wasn't the be all end all. It sort of helped you. I did have some family connections to muscular dystrophy. But nothing that was life debilitating. But you start to, as you work at these organizations, you have relationships with people, and you have more of a why, and you've met people who are no longer here or who can't walk, or this is MDA wise, people cancer, whatnot. But it really does fuel it. Think of it, think of them. Whatnot, and really helps you out. I mean, one of the best that's ever helped me out is actually just we have some families set up on the course. So where I live, mile 24, we set up a tent, and people hang out there. So it's pretty cool to see people. So visualizing that, writing names down on an extra bib or whatnot. So that's fun.
24 is so close. You're so close, but you're still so far away. Yeah. Amanda, for you, in the funds that you've raised, you also serve as a coach for the B.A.A. Charity team that's raising money for the Boston Athletic Association. What are some of the mental secrets you've heard of being unlocked in late miles? Or do you have any tricks yourself you want to share?
I like to kind of break it down by like, oh, I've got a mile to go. Michael talked a little bit about that too, or like this is a 5K to go. But obviously those last miles, when you say a 5K, that seems like a lot. So yeah, I like to make it like the small little breaks and stuff like that. And then for charity runners, I think that I've run for the Boston Marathon for Children's Hospital for 14 years in memory of my cousin's baby. And whenever I get cheers, I used to write her name down my arm, and I'd get cheers for Isabella, and it was very, very special. And I think working with charity runners, they all have their reasons for being there, like any other runner as well, but they've done so much that a lot of the qualified runners haven't had to do. And so I feel like they have such a great purpose for being out there. And I think with the B.A.A. charity team, it's a very happy reason to be running. It raises money for getting out into the community and promoting health and fitness. And I think that's, it's not necessarily on the medical front. So I think you don't necessarily have all the
those types of
sadness.
Yeah,
sometimes it goes with some of the other charity groups, but they're all, such great reasons to be out there running.
Yeah, man. But I think that is something, if we could pass that on to, the qualified runners and the charity runners alike, carry something on your back. A lot of teams, I know Children's has it, we have it, we stole it from Children's, where we have a spot on the back to put the names of why you're running. And that's pretty powerful. It sort of reminds you, what you're doing.
Yeah, it gives you a greater purpose for why you're out there and what you're doing.
Like you could put me, you could put like a big me on the back, a la Ricky Bobby, but depending on what you're running the Boston Marathon for, but whatever drives you, use it.
Yeah.
Guys, I need you to either agree or disagree with this position. I feel like if I'm going to run a marathon in a different city where I'm not from, where I don't have people waiting for me or cheering me on, I would write my name on my shirt. That way people could cheer for me as I go and whatever. But if there are like 2 spots on race course where I've got this person and then I'm going to have that person waiting for me, my perspective is I shouldn't write my name on my shirt, because then everyone's cheering it the whole way and I might miss it when that person and that person yell it. Does that make sense? And would you agree or disagree with that? Because I actually don't think I've ever tried either. I just feel like this is what I'm going to do moving forward. Michael, what do you think about that?
Oh, that's a trick question. I like when I'm running marathons, I like the sneak attack where I'm coming up from behind and passing people. So I don't want them knowing I'm coming. But it doesn't really count at Boston Marathon so much. And I think the last Boston I ran, I think there was somebody named Michael that had written their name on their arm or something, because I heard cheering the whole way and I'm pretty sure it wasn't for me. So I don't know if my first Boston Marathon, I had the friends who hosted me wrote my nickname on my right and left calf. And it was pretty cool. So I'd say I'd do it again.
Okay. All right, Amanda?
So I've done Boston both ways, with it written and with it not. And it definitely is fun to have people cheer for you the entire 26.2 miles. And I think people who know me, they use a different nickname. So I was like, oh, I actually know that person. And then when I've been in another country, in another city or something to run a marathon, when it's been printed on my bib, it's actually been nice. It's made me feel like I'm local or something like that, because people were cheering for me as well. And I actually liked it.
Good. Chris, for you?
I usually have an MDA something on my back because I wear my beautiful B.A.A uniform, which I think is actually helpful, because I think sometimes as a B.A.A runner in Boston, somebody may think we just have a Boston Marathon shirt on. So having something on the back, I think, helps out. But having somebody else cheer for me, Michael said that. I think 2015, I was with Joni in her area from like 23 on. So the word Joni just had me go, because I mean, even though she's Joni, I still didn't want a 60-year-old woman to beat me, just because, at that point in my life, like I couldn't really think, I took miles 23. So I heard Joni and I was going.
Did she still kick your ass?
I beat her that year.
All right. Well done. Don't ask her for a rematch. I wouldn't.
Amanda tries to beat her too. It's tough, isn't it?
At the 10K, I've tried to beat her a few times.
And?
Oh, I have never beaten her. Not yet. I do have a funny story about the names, though. One year running Boston, I was running and I heard people going, "Go Uda, go Uda," and I'm a huge fan of Uda Pippig. And I was like, no, I'm not going to look back. I'm not going to see if it's Uda Pippig. So I kept going, and it turned out it was Uda Pippig.
And did she end up passing you, or did you?
No, she was coaching Teddy's team, I think. Okay. So she was kind of doing a going back and forth to support her athletes. I did get to meet her a couple years later, but I thought at that point it was a big miss that I didn't turn around and say hi.
That's cool.
I think I said something like, "Hey, did you see Uda out there?" And she's like, "What? Uda was out there?"
So, yeah.
Okay, so this 26.2 mile virtual race is over. Chris, where are you going to finish and what are you going to do?
I'm running straight into the lake.
Okay.
That's my plan. I'm gonna grab a beer and run right into the lake. Maybe, I guess I'll hug the kids first, but maybe too. And then go jump on in the lake and ice down.
I have a question. When you do the Garmin, or you're going to wear a watch or something, are you going to go with the 26.2 on the dot, or are you going to go with like 26.6 because you know that's what the
26.4 is usually
okay.
is usually no, I'm going 26.2 this time.
Yes.
This is the chance. I don't care if they're standing like 50 feet in front of me. I'm stopping. I may walk through that finish.
I think a lot of the viewers are happy that you said that. Amanda, are you stopping at 26.2 or 26.4?
Oh, I would stop at 26.2. It's my course, so it's my tangents. Nice. During the other events, you're not necessarily running the exact course that was mapped out and certified. So this is our certification.
I like that. It's my course. It's my tangents. That's
heck with Dave McGillivray. We're in charge this year.
That's your own race director. Amanda, what's the first thing you're going to eat after you finish?
Oh, great question.
I know we didn't review this question beforehand.
I know you threw me off guard, and I probably would hate to admit this, but it will probably be something like Cheetos.
Good, pile them on, Mike. Go buy some Cheetos, Mike. What are you gonna like when you finish? What do you typically go for in terms of food?
Oh, for me, when I finish Boston Marathon, like I want a Coke, and usually I want burger and fries, but my stomach doesn't want it, and so it's half on the plate when I'm done. But and then I usually have a huge craving for Starbucks iced mocha, which I generally make a trip there as soon as I finish and I can.
Good. And Mike, what are you? This is our last round. What are you most looking forward to when we all return to Boston for the best weekend in running?
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I think it's just going to be such a reunion of family and friends. And I mean, I think all of the Boston Marathon participants will just be more connected if we all get to run, next April together, especially our teammates and being the 125th running of the Boston Marathon. And it was going to be a pretty special year for me and for Amanda and Adina because she was turning 40 and I was turning 50 the week of the Boston Marathon this year. And I was planning to run my 20th Boston Marathon. So everything got kind of postponed and it's just going to be a huge celebration.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All round numbers. Your birthday is race week, right?
Yeah, both of Amanda and I both are 16th and the 19th. So it's once every like 7 to 10 years it falls on our birthday, which is pretty cool.
I love that. Chris, for you, what are you most looking forward to here when we return?
I miss like those Fridays or race weekend, obviously Boston's the best, but whether it's Boston, New York, Chicago, you go around these Fridays or race weekend, there's just so much buzz in the city. It's that running nerdiness, whether, whatever. I mean, we all live in the city, right? But we're all buzzing around on Friday doing whatever. We can't get enough of it. And we're not tourists. And it's fun just to go down and eat on Boylston Street, whatever. So I miss that. I think, it's maybe we're all getting soft as parents, but I think it's that family aspect. And, I've been lucky enough to run past my son 3 years, and I was looking forward to, running past my daughter this year and sort of adding in that extra embrace. So that'll be extra special next year.
Yes, it will. Yes, it will.
I'll be that much closer to 10 in a row. So maybe retire after that point. Who knows?
Yeah, nice round number. Amanda, for you, here as we celebrate this year, yes, but we certainly look ahead to future gatherings. What are you most looking forward to?
Just the whole community coming back together. My family, everyone is involved in the marathon. My mother has volunteered for years and years and brings in so many other family and friends. They come from all over the country stay at our house, and we have other runners who come in and stay with us, and just the whole group coming back together and being able to spend time with them, and also seeing my runners that I've been coaching actually get to realize and fulfill their dream and get their unicorn medal at the Boston Marathon.
And just be sure to warn them about that hill at mile 25.
They already know.
Yeah.
They've gotten emails about it.
Brutal. The Mass Pike overpass. Who would have thought it? Just not fair. It's just not fair.
Exactly.
That'll conclude our session, ladies and gentlemen. Michael McGrane, Christopher Marshall, Amanda Waters, thank you guys so much.
Thank you, TK.
Absolutely.
Good
Thanks,
luck,
for
everybody.
Good luck in the virtual run, you guys. Do well, run hard, run strong, finish strong, and Chris, splash, belly flop into that pond, would you?
Oh yeah, I'll do it. Hopefully I'm able to get out. That may be tough.
Are you going to have video of it?
If someone else is, yeah, I don't know.
If someone's shooting a video, someone can rescue him if he starts to drown.
I think it's well worth trying to watch me get out of the water. I think that's probably like going downstairs, right?
Just put down the camera and rescue you if you're in serious need of help.
Have fun, Chris.
Thank you guys, and good luck.
All right,
Thank
thank
you.
you.